Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. Almost midnight here on the East Coast. And quite frankly, hey, we've watched a lot of football in our days. That might have been one of the most exciting games I've ever been a part of and have watched. The Miami Hurricanes surviving Virginia Tech 38 to 34. Obviously, just a wild last 5 minutes of this football game. And Dill, again, my biggest takeaway is this Miami Hurricanes team, when it's crunch time, feels a little bit different. And it starts with quarterback Cam Ward. Again, Cam Ward did not play a very good football game, specifically in that first half. You can't be that sloppy with the football. Cam Ward certainly knows that. But every time the camera went to Cam Ward, the self-belief that he has in himself just resonates with the rest of this Miami Hurricanes team. What was the biggest problem with Miami going back the last couple of years? One, it was just pure quarterback play. But I think secondly, like when the moment was the brightest, this Miami Hurricanes team never really seemed to play their best football. You're kind of getting just a different vibe from this team in the 2024 season. Want to go over, what we saw in this football game, talk about some things that went well for the Miami Hurricanes, obviously talk about some things that didn't go so well. Now, before we get into it, as always, the Miami Hurricane fans, can't thank you guys enough for rocking with it. A lot of y'all know we love talking this program. Dill, nothing I'd rather be doing with my Friday night than talking some Canes football. So appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, let it fly in the comment section. Dill, I'm going to start here. Let's start on the offensive side of football with Ward. Obviously, a sloppy start to the game, right, with a turnover right off the bat. Dill, when Cam Ward and this offense start to cook, it is a very hard offense to stop. And I think one of my biggest takeaways is in the second half, when you went to a little bit more of a balanced attack, started running the football a little bit more, that's when this Miami Hurricanes team, I think, had its most success on the offensive side of the ball.
And that was the one disappointing part, I thought, for the first half. And
Yeah.
obviously, their inability to stay on the field with some of those turnovers certainly hurt their ability to run it. But again, once Martinez got a little bit more engaged in that football, Fletch, some of those guys, and they started to run the ball, I think that's something Miami kind of has to commit to. And again, we've talked about it at times. It feels like they've gone away from it, especially when Rivers is back, because I do think he makes a big difference. He's probably one of their better run blockers. So when he's in, I think they need to be more aggressive in terms of just pounding on teams, because I look like when they wanted to get into that, I think they slowed the pass rush for Virginia Tech down a little bit. And I think you're right, the offense really started to hum.
That's where it starts for me. And I understand why they wanted to throw the ball. Like Virginia Tech was heavy boxing them like quite a bit. There were not a lot of times where Virginia Tech was playing with two high safeties. So I understand trying to push the ball down the field. But I think you said it best. Like one of the most effective parts about running the football is just slowing down that pass rush a little bit. We said heading in, like Virginia Tech is hard to throw the football, and they have a very good secondary. But more importantly, they have a phenomenal pass rush, headlined by one of the better pass rushers in the country. Dill, not an ideal game for the Miami Hurricanes not to have their starting left tackle healthy. I think it makes this Miami win even just a little bit more impressive. I think the second storyline was the tight ends continue to get involved, whether it's Elijah Arroyo, whether it's Riley Williams in the fourth quarter. I know that wasn't necessarily on purpose getting Riley Williams involved, but you have to get him the football. You saw a little bit less of it as the game went on because they had to start leaving their tight ends to kind of chip some of these edge rushers because Markel Bell was struggling specifically in the first half in pass protection. But you kind of continue to see that the emergence of the tight end position is going to win Miami some football games in the rest of 2024.
And I think it's much more about being able to attack everywhere on the field, because obviously when you play Virginia Tech, they have two boundary corners who I think as a tandem can rival almost anyone in the country.
Yes.
I think Strong and Mansour Delane are like, they're right up there with anyone. And again, they did kind of take the boundary away for the wide receiver standpoint. But again, you see their ability. Not only do they have guys like Restrepo and some of those guys who work the slot, but even their boundary guys, Horton, George, Sammy Brown, like they can all work the middle of the field. They run clean routes through that part of the field. And I think that's a big part of I think, again, being able to attack defenses that have some strengths is Miami with the tight end being more engaged with their ability to run the ball. I think they can go to a lot of different things. And you saw Virginia Tech be able to take parts of this Miami game away, but obviously they can beat you in a lot of ways, and they still put up some major yards through the air.
When you're as multidimensional as Miami, Like again, it's really hard to stop this offense because there's always something. You said it best. Like you want to take away the boundary receivers, well, you have to deal with Xavier Restrepo working out of the slot or the tight ends or the rushing attack. It's impossible for a defense to take away every aspect of the offense. And so when you're as multidimensional as Miami, so many different ways to an attack a defense, that's kind of why this offense is so hard to stop. A quick shout out to Virginia Tech, though. I think I should have started with this. They played a phenomenal football game, a cleaner football game than Miami, that's for sure. And Dill, we said this on Sunday when we were previewing this game. Like Virginia Tech was some people's picks to win the ACC. Like this is not a 2-2 football team. You look at their past couple of losses, Vanderbilt week 1, really sloppy first half from Virginia Tech, kind of a same story against Rutgers in week 4. This is a Virginia Tech team that can be a top 25 team at some point during the 2024 season. And they played like a good team. That was by far the best game we've seen Virginia Tech play, specifically on the offensive side of the football. Dude, let's get to that because outside of the turnovers for Miami, like they didn't really punt that much. This offense really didn't have that much problems moving the football against Virginia Tech. I thought the bigger problems for Miami were on the defensive side of the football. Now, let's start with the positives. A guy like Malik Bryant, that that's another thing that you talk about, like the change in culture. A guy that probably played 10, maybe 15 snaps in that football game, but when the moment mattered the most on the field goal, that they went for the fake, or in his limited snaps playing on the defensive side of the football, playing his best ball. That was my biggest takeaway. Dill, I kind of opened up to you some of the things that, because if you're a Miami Hurricanes fan, like you're fired up to get a win on Friday night against Virginia Tech, a very good Virginia Tech team, especially not playing your best football. But on the defensive side of the football, I think things need to be cleaned up. If you had a number one thing you would like to see Miami get a little bit better at, what's your take there?
Probably tackling, right? That was the one thing that's
Yeah.
not benefiting for them so much. But at the end of the day, they just got to get guys on the ground. I feel like their
Yeah.
secondary, they were giving up short yardage plays and then not tackling guys on their reverse, not tackling guys. Obviously, that long run by Tootin, not tackling. That was the one thing that stood out to me is they got to tackle.
Hey, I don't think I've ever said this in my history of talking Miami Hurricanes football. We've talked a lot of Miami Hurricanes football. Y'all know that. Francisco Mauigoa did not have a very good football game. I didn't think the linebackers played good in general. And
They
this
dialed it in, I thought, towards the end of it, but I'm
agreed.
the first part they were not playing.
Agreed. I think this Miami team dialed it in on aggregate in the second half. And again, what makes me so excited if I'm a Miami fan coming out of this game is you're playing your best football when it matters. Like that's something we haven't said about Miami in a very, very long time. We're starting to say that about this program. This is a tricky Virginia Tech offense to play. They did a lot of things that worked, especially getting it kind of those pin and pull tosses out to the boundary. Linebackers kind of just getting caught in some of the traffic. I thought Virginia Tech, quite frankly, blocked it up quite well. And then when you have a quarterback like Kyron Jones who adds basically just another body in the run game, certainly makes it even more hard on linebackers. You kind of have to freeze. You kind of have to make sure Jones is not keeping the football. So this was a tough game for linebackers to play well in. But I thought the leader of your defense, Francisco Mauigoa, and he'd probably be the first one to admit it, probably didn't play his best football game. Dill, I think the second thing is the pass rush. I didn't think it disrupted drones as much as I expected. And I think that might have been a little bit intentional in terms of, hey, we have a quarterback that's really good at extending plays. We can't just pin our ears back and get after him because we've got to make sure we're trying to have him operate from the pocket, not let him extend plays.
But frankly, I think they, for the lack of ability to create sacks and stuff, they did give up way too many issues with not maintaining rush,
Agreed.
not getting them on the
Yeah.
ground. I mean, a couple broken plays they give up that just really you shouldn't. The one obviously that strikes me is that one that he rolled out, I think was to his right, and they throw the ball up kind of to a wide open receiver. I mean, like Elijah Alston, you just have to be better.
Angles were so bad. Elijah Alston twice, like one on the first drive on that third and long that led to a touchdown, and then obviously that other one in the fourth quarter that led to a touchdown. Like, he's a really good athlete. We can't just run right at him. We got to keep our leverage, and we didn't do that twice. Specifically, Elijah Alston. Again, we're not trying to single players out, but it was a problem for Miami throughout this football game. The secondary wasn't great. I don't think the secondary was that bad either. 189 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick for Drones. Though again, Drones is a really good like there's a reality where Kyron Drones is getting selected in the NFL draft. Like this kid is very talented, and I thought he played a very good football game for most of that game.
I also think at the end of the day, defense was put in some brutal spots, especially in that first part of that football game with some of those turnovers. But they also came up with some huge ones. I mean, obviously, that pick that they take into the red zone to hold them there and get a 3-and-out, and then obviously stop the field goal fake kick, which was a really odd call, I thought, by Virginia Tech. But those are some big moments. I thought the defense, again, I don't think it was a great down to down game, but situationally it was really, really good. And that is, I think, again, when you talk about like, okay, you're not going to play your best every game. You're not just going to roll teams by 40 points every game. And Miami's going to have their share of rolling teams out. But when you play this type of game, can you not let it become a Georgia Tech or some of those games that Miami's lost in the past? And obviously their ability, both on the offense side and on the defense side, to stand tall in big moments is something I think really kind of stands out, because that's not something we've seen under Cristobal for the last couple of
Yeah,
years.
and we might need to rep the Hail Mary play real quick. Like can't be sweating that out like we had to sweat that out for the 3 minutes.
I couldn't imagine being a fan in that stands.
Oh my
I'd be
god. No,
it's
I mean, I was just pacing around the house. Like I couldn't believe it. I want to switch back to the offense real quick. And again, this is kind of just a live reaction from the boys. We'll probably have a little bit more dialed in notes Sunday morning. Damian Martinez, does he look banged up to you? And I thought he ran the football much better in the second half. And that is kind of how he is as a running back. Like he gets better as the game goes on and more of a physicality runner. I would like to see Jordan Lyle. I'd like to see Mark Fletcher. I'd even like to see a guy like Chris Johnson get a few more touches, because to me, Damian Martinez, as good as he is at times wearing you down and running physically, I feel like some of the big plays and a little bit of the juice he might not have like a guy like Jordan Lyle might have as a true freshman.
Yeah, in the first half, I just don't think he was playing well. It didn't seem like he
Yeah,
was running with much conviction. Obviously, in the second half, that's kind of more you get that type of performance.
agreed.
He's pushing piles, running through behind his pads and driving through contact like that. That's really, really effective. I think that puts Miami in a really good spot, and I think that's obviously why they're scoring a lot in the second half.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I think the first half, like there's got to be more from him, and I don't think the offense line was doing a ton of favors. I feel like they were, and that group settled in too, frankly, for that matter. But yeah, he's got to play better, because there were some runs that it felt like he could have kept them on schedule, kept them out of some bad spots that he just didn't
I
use.
feel like Miami it could use this like extra day, playing on Friday, because neither team really seemed that healthy, quite frankly. Like you could tell these teams just kind of left it on the football field Friday night, because there were a lot of guys that just didn't look quite 100%. I think you could say that for some guys on the offensive line. Maui Noah probably at the right tackle spot, and Nez Cooper probably wasn't fully healthy either in that football game. But yeah, had guys gritting it out. Any other takes? I thought it was balanced from the wide receivers. Like when Isaiah Horton's turn to make a play, Isaiah Horton made it. Any football that touches Xavier Restrepo's hands, he's going to catch. I think we've been saying that all summer. He did it once again. Jacoby George, man, like if he can play, I think he's the most talented wide receiver on this team from a pure physical trait standpoint, and you could kind of see that in this football game. That'll do it for me, Dill. Again, those are kind of some gut reactions. I think to summarize my thoughts on this game, it is nice to see Miami play a game where it is you backs against the wall a little bit, and you got to make a play in the fourth quarter, and you have a quarterback, but I think more importantly, a football team that doesn't seem to flinch. That's probably my biggest take. Why I think the Miami Hurricane fans have a ton to be fired up about. And quite frankly, if you're a Virginia Tech fan, like 2-3 is not how you wanted to start the season. This is a team that can be dangerous in the ACC. I think we all know that. We'll cut it out there again. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.